Okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the Groton Board of Education special meeting to order on January 6th, 2025 at 6 o'clock. It's being held by Zoom. And we have a quorum. We have 6 out of the 9 members in attendance. And the second item on the agenda is the budget work session. And I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent, Susan Austin.
All right. Thank you very much. We're really going to do an overview tonight. And as I explained to the board, we really want to make sure and verify our numbers. We're really trying to be efficient and tightening our belts. Looking at some of the challenges we had, and we looked at trends in the budget. So a lot of the budget has been worked on. It's just a refining of it and to get it to that just right place so that it's, affordable, but it's meeting the needs of the district. And so we're taking a little extra time this week and bringing all the directors together, with the business manager and making some fine tunes, because when we did a zero based budget, we asked for what the needs were of our principals. And they even, after the board had asked for their specific needs, we actually have a Google Doc that has some additional needs, but they really started from the baseline and created their budgets. And they knew though what they had spent in the years past. So they gauged it with that knowledge. But then also what the actuals have been so that they really are getting it right in the right place. And I know that Irene Lynch has really taken some time making sure that some of those areas that were clustered together and always weren't so clear to people, and the board members had asked about that. She really outlined it and put it in specific areas. For instance, my budget, superintendent budget, was with HR. And so all the supplies and all the PD and even the staffing was mixed together. So we've separated that out so it's clearer to everyone. So I'm hoping that when you do see it and the budget books are created, with, this week is our goal, that you'll see it in a better way than last year. We really listened to the board's feedback from last year. And, we really want it to be a smooth process this year. So with that being said, we're going to do some district highlights, some of the financial obligations, which you've seen the slide before. They're not too much different than last year. They're what we're facing at home, like utility bills. And then we're going to do some projected enrollment. And while it's projected, it's as good a, projection as we can get, but we monitor all through the year. So we'll have better data even as we go through. Some CIP work that has been done, and I'll explain that. And then the per pupil spending. And then we'll talk about next steps too. We do have a budget calendar, and we'll be marching our way through this, and we're going to set a public hearing and, looking forward to this work in tandem with the board. So as we all know, that our mission statement is teaching and learning. And while that seems really simple, when you get into the depth of really understanding what that means, high quality teaching and learning, and really with a goal of mine and the board's to close the gap and to accelerate learning, even after COVID. So that's really our mission too. We want to provide the dynamic, rigorous curriculum, ensure effective, engaging instruction, and also have excellent learning environments, which are our schools, our HVAC systems, our culture and climate, all of those things. And we want to cultivate an environment of diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. So these highlights, I'm not going to read to you. You know them, you've lived them really from the Groton 2020 when we got our new schools and our one Groton Middle School on the top of the Fort Hill. We've taken our elementaries and made them intra-district magnets. And that's really given parents a choice of, having their own regional home districted school or to make a choice on another school with a lottery system. And it's really helped having the one Groton Middle School and having these intra-district magnets and really balancing our schools economically and in all different ways so that they really mirror the community of Groton. We have some that are closer to the mirror and some that are a little bit further away, but they're all really much closer than they were prior. We still believe in a lot of good curricular and extracurricular programs. Technology with the one-to-one, especially in our grades 6 through 12, is the mission, and much of that has always been afforded by Department of Defense supplemental impact aid, and we're not certain on what that's going to look like this year. We've got indications that our numbers were down for military dependent students, which is the reason why we get that additional funds that come right to the schools. So we're going to be monitoring that and setting aside funds in the operating budget and looking at a 3-year plan for that, which Clint can talk about in a minute. And of course, special education by law. We have wonderful programs and services. We're still working. I've said that not only academics has struggled, but so has social emotional learning. And kids are really, it's been more complicated lately, shall I say. And so we're trying to take care of the whole child as we've always done. And then, of course, having a treehouse program before and after school is wonderful. And in the summertime, and having our police resource officers. I always say that the police department is a partner to me. In any major emergency, I can call the chief of police and they work collaboratively in their schools. So just a big shout out for that partnership. And then, of course, our focus this year has been on the K-5 science of reading and the literacy instruction that the board has so well promoted and supported, and where it's been very exciting. We've seen some really good things, and we're monitoring and adjusting as we go and getting feedback from our teachers. We also heard loud and clear from the board, and it's a certainly near and dear to my heart as a math teacher myself, to increase the rigor and relevance and follow those standards K through 12 related to the Connecticut core, and maybe even look at some different ideas in teaching mathematics. So we'll do that slow and steady because we know our elementary folks are really focused on the literacy right now, but we're going to be doing some minor revisions and come to the board for some, expertise and with our expertise and share with you some ideas that we have. As you know, Anne Marie Mancini, my assistant superintendent, is working on strategic planning, and that's going to be a big comprehensive project throughout the year. We're going to engage families, the staff, the board, and really work on that to focus on what are our priorities in the next few years. So science is in there too. We've got the IB. We've worked really hard on, having kids take courses that make them college and career ready, both. And that's really important to us. A lot of STEAM work here, which is STEM and the arts. And that will continue. Looking to even grow our newly established Naval Defense Cadet Corps so that they can become JROTC, which will come with some federal funds as well. And then I had explained to the board, this is really a high priority for me, is if we can take the few early childhood programs that are already in the board budget and start an early childhood center at Mary Morrison with the ECAT, which is our already established early childhood assessment team. That's going to help us. So if we have the potential of getting a grant that is sustainable and growing the program, that we can have a place where, children who are 4 getting ready to go to kindergarten will really flourish. And there's nothing better a district can do than really cultivate an early childhood program that is rich and very literature oriented and mathematically oriented, and getting kids really ready for kindergarten. So we'll do it slow and steady. We'll do it so that it doesn't have a financial impact this year, but we can grow it. And I think you've seen this one before. I think we had arrows going up and down last year. But these are those buckets that we've talked about over time that have been financial obligations that have really caused some increases in our budget. It's certainly legal fees, which all districts have, with negotiating contracts, special education, and other board matters that we've had to deal with that have come our way. So, that's always going to be there. Health insurance, we're continuing to monitor our health insurance claims. I feel like we're doing a little better this year, so I'm very hopeful, and working closely with the town to make sure that we've gotten everything covered with our health insurance. And I feel like we have a better handle on that corridor and then the what's above the corridor this year than I did last year. Increases in property cost, of course, transportation with the each year there's an increase, but as we go through this transportation contract, the increases become more minimal than they were in the beginning of the contract. DOD, I had mentioned that the supplemental impact aid, we're not, really knowing what's going to come our way, if anything. So we really do have to look at instructional technology and software expenses that had been paid there. And we've really got to design a plan for that. Clint, I don't know if you want to talk about that now or if you want to wait until we get to that.
Well, I can do it now, but we can do it when we're in CIP as well, if you'd like.
Okay. We'll wait for the CIP because you can talk about it then. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm moving too fast. Utilities, of course, electric cost, the electricity cost, those just seem to be escalating and increasing, and hopefully some legislation will happen around that. But we're just monitoring it ever so closely this year. And then, of course, contractual obligations and the minimum wage increases that have gone into effect January 1.
Susan, before you go into enrollment, can I ask if anybody has any questions so far?
Sure. Yep.
Any questions so far?
I see Matthew's hand.
Okay. Matthew?
Thank you very much, Bev. With regard property costs, it says increased in property costs. Could you give a little more color on that?
I don't know if Sam is on to help me with that specifically.
Yeah, Sam's on. Sam's on, but he's muted. But he's on.
I am here.
Okay.
Do you know any of the specificity with the property costs? I know Irene was really sick and, there's all kinds of things going around. So,
Well, the the increase in the property costs were partially due to the issues that we had within the last year, and so that's why that was bumped up.
okay.
As we
And
move
I
forward.
do remember you talking with Irene about certain maintenance things that were kind of postponed that are coming up to this year, that I think you need another truck because one of those trucks had been in an accident in the snow last year. So I know there are things that we've had to add in due to that for this year.
Sam, I don't know if it's possible, but if it's possible to flesh that one out before they give us the full document, that will it'll anticipate and respond to questions that the council would otherwise ask.
Okay.
So what we'll do is I've been having the admin assistants listen to our the video of this presentation, and they've been compiling. Erica has got a Google Doc of FAQs. So we're adding those in and trying to get you the answers in a better way. So I will make sure that we do that one and add the ones that we've had too in the past.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Dean has his hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Bev.
You're
First of all,
welcome.
can I be heard?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can
Okay,
hear you
good.
loud and clear.
So, Susan, you said something earlier, and this is just for me, it's a nonsensical no matter kind of a detail, but this has been mentioned a number of times by you over the years that you want the schools to reflect the community. And I know what's meant by that. You're looking for racial balancing. And I stated when I was first interviewed to fill a vacancy years ago, I really could care less what the students look like. But it seems to be important to people, that everything be matchy-matchy.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
know that it's exactly matchy-matchy, but go ahead.
Well, yeah, let's put it this way. Again, the children are who they are.
Right,
Okay, they're
right, of
children.
course.
Right. But the school population isn't anything like the town's population. So when you say you want the schools to reflect the community, the school population doesn't look anything like the demographics of the town per any census you want to look at. So again, I could care less, but it seems to be important to a lot of other people that everybody be in a certain category. And
Well,
for what it's worth,
important.
for
Yeah.
what it's worth, there is no, you'll never match the community makeup in the schools. The schools
You will
are
never
what they
have it
are.
perfect, you're right.
Oh,
But
no,
it's
it's
much
not even
better than it
close.
was, and it's not.
Yeah, the population of the town of Groton is 75% white, not 47% or 49%. So if you're going to balance the schools, which is just the elementary schools, go ahead and balance those schools. But the school population will never look like the town until many years from now, I suppose, when the W's die off or something. But I'm just saying, this has been mentioned more than once that you want the schools to look like the community. And if you want the faculty and staff to match the school population, that's a whole different topic. But the town itself is not, again, for what it's worth, reflected in the school population.
So let me clarify, Dean.
Yeah.
Back in probably, I'm trying to think, 2015, 16, Dr. Grenier received a letter from the state saying we're out of compliance with racial balance in one of our schools and nearly in another. That actually helped promote the Groton 2020 plan. Now, racially, we had a Dr. Kallenberg who came in and he said one of the best things any district can do is balance socioeconomics in a school. It kind of lifts everybody. So we really worked hard to not just racially, but also socioeconomically to balance our schools. And that's why the intra-district magnet approach was one that it would promote choice. And we knew our parents wanted choice. A lot of them are going over the bridge to find out, other magnet schools outside the district. And we've been, because of this, been able to bring a lot of our kids back. So when I say mirror the community, I just really mean really be more representative, equally with all different factors. And race may be one of them, but also socioeconomics, so that, that our schools are more balanced.
Well, the state doesn't give a fig about the socioeconomics. They only bean count by race. That's what we answer to. So if that's what we have to do,
I think they're
that's what we have
starting to
do.
care more about that though too.
What's that?
I've seen some indication. So I think, this Dr. Kallenberg had a lot of research around. That's an important thing to keep in mind.
Oh yeah, that in itself may be important. That's true. What I'm saying is the state rules are schools must be balanced, or you have a certain amount of leeway plus minus, and they'll send you that letter if you're not, and they'll make you balance them. But that's done.
And we
on the
got that
basis
letter,
of
and then we got a new
race.
school paid at what was it, 80% paid by the state for our Mystic River school, I think. So we did benefit from that.
Yeah. And as far as socioeconomic, you're really only guessing, because people have to sort of self-report their conditions, or unless you know that they've signed up for free and reduced, which presumes that they are in, a particular, socioeconomic box, you really don't know. So that's why the state defaults to race. That's easily that they'll just say, you're this, you're that, you go here, you go here. This has been done for decades. But anyway, I didn't want to belabor the point.
Thank you, Dean.
Sure.
Susan, Susan, when you say increase vigor and relevance in math, and then you say you're going to make minor revisions, how's that all going to work?
So I think first, one of the things that we're working with the math specialist on, and we're going to get a representative group of teachers to come in, is to really look at the Common Core standards or the Connecticut Core standards and align them again and compact them and look at it carefully at every grade level. Look at the data that's coming in from SBAC and what is it telling us? Do we need more of this or less of this? So I think using our data to help inform our curriculum is one of the steps that we can take in the right direction. And relevance to me is really having a lot of problem solving and problems in context. So problems that matter, life kind of problems that kids have to solve, parents have to solve every day. So the problem solving piece is a piece that typically in the United States we haven't done as well on. And of course, there's reading involved. So, but that's really a focus area and some of the results we've seen in the assessments that can be improved upon. So we're looking at some of our strengths and some of our weaker areas, and we're going to try to fine tune what we have in curriculum, but we'll be bringing that to the curriculum committee and starting some of that work this year.
Okay, thank you. And Susan, do you have any idea when the JNROTC will be funded by the government?
So I think it's a matter of increasing our numbers. I think Terry Hinkle has done an amazing job, and the kids have really, really risen to the occasion. And, they have activities and they're really to be seen and work. They work with New London, they work with Bethel. So there's a lot of work that's going into it right now. But I think the more students we get into the program, that's going to amplify the program, and that's going to lead us into that next step. But Terry is doing all the right things, and he's connected in so many ways with other people from around the state and the nation. So, and the students are doing really very well. So, we just want to grow that program so that will happen.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Field of dreams, build it and they will come.
Any other questions before we move on?
I see Ian's hand.
Ian?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the JROTC question. And what are the benchmarks? What are the thresholds that we need to achieve in order to gain the government funding? And
Ian, I don't know that I can give
we?
I can't give a quick answer to that, but I can certainly work with Terry Hinkle, and we can get that back to you. We can get it to you in questions, or we can even present it to you. What are the thresholds? But it's an excellent question. It's not an easy answer for me to answer tonight, but I definitely can get the details.
Okay, that's great. That'd be greatly appreciated. Yep.
Yep.
And
thank you.
Let me know how I can help. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Susan, go ahead.
All right.
Thank you for answering those questions.
So now I'm going to district enrollment trends. And I think Lauren Cassini is on. Do you see, Clint, that she's on?
I'm here.
Okay. So one of the things that Lauren and I decided to do was to show you district enrollment trends. And we really look at total enrollment, because all of our students, whether they're in the district or they're out of district or going to magnet schools in New London or, Learn, we still are responsible for paying a portion of their tuition. So while the state provides some of that, we do about 50%. Is it, Lauren, do you remember if it's exactly 50% or it's close to?
I do not know.
I can get that to you, but
yeah.
So there's still our students. They actually count for us with impact aid as well. So when we look at the bottom line of total enrollment, it's kind of interesting to see the trend. When you go back to 2020, you see that there was significantly more students in our schools. Actually, in our schools, there were at least 200 more students than we have currently, and then when you look at the total, it's, a 300 range. So one of the things that we've noticed in doing a little bit of research statewide and nationwide, right before COVID hit, we had more students. And there are students that just haven't come back to us. Or I don't know if they've not come back to us or if they've made moves or what's happened. But if past 2020, it's been pretty consistent, almost flat. There's been some ups and downs. That 4,062 in the district schools is similar to 4,052, 4,083, 4,047 from 21. So, they're kind of all within the range, plus or minus 20, 30 kids. So that's interesting to me. I don't know if there's a trend of, fewer children being born in families or fewer places to live for younger families, but it's not really significant. But we do monitor it. I work closely with Miranda Chapman and the Navy as far as when the submarines are coming and going. And I think one of the things that Lauren does a really great job at working with the enrollment team is that we constantly, every week, every month, are looking at what are our numbers today. And Lauren and I had that conversation. Lauren, you might want to share with them when you looked at, the past several times that you've collected that data. It hasn't varied a whole lot, has it?
No, it's from school to school. We may see one school total population go up a few students or go down a few students, but week to week, they're pretty consistent in the number of enrollment. It's just that it may not be necessarily the same children, just the total number remains
Mhm.
the same, if that makes sense.
Right. So that's just to give you kind of an overview. I think the legislators had talked about that. But there might have been a decline from when Groton had 10 schools, and Beverly, that's probably when you were the chair of the board before, right? Were there 10 schools then?
Yeah, yes, there was.
I mean, the schools were smaller, but there were more students too. So I see a couple hands.
Let me see. Matthew and then Dean.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize I hit that. That's not for me. I'm taking it down.
Okay. Dean, you have a question? Dean took his down too. Okay.
Oh.
Do you
Apologize.
have a question? Oh,
I
go ahead,
do.
Dean.
I do. Whether the change from 2020 is statistically significant or not, do we have an idea of how many children may have been pulled out of the school system to go elsewhere or to stay home, as in maybe homeschooled?
We did see during COVID a significant amount being homeschooled. I'd have to collect that data though to do a better job and analyze it a little better for you, Dean. Sometimes we didn't know where they went, it's almost, but I will see if we can look at those categories, the homeschooling versus maybe a move that we could, actually articulate, whether it's a military move or a move that the parents, let us know about. But then sometimes students just move away and we don't know where they go.
So let me ask you
those
this:
are uncertain ones.
if a child is going to be homeschooled, do we know about it? What I mean is, do the parents call up and say, "Hey, I'm taking Jane out of school now. I'm going to be homeschooling her"? Or, I mean, is there a process that they have to? I'm not sure how that's done. So
they have to withdraw their student, their child from school. And as part of that withdrawal form, trying to think of it specifically, identifies whether they are going to homeschool, because we are not allowed, by Connecticut statute, we are not allowed to withdraw students until we have their next, until they're registered somewhere, right? Until we know what the educational process is. So if we don't receive that, yes, they need to let us know that they're homeschooling. And then from there, it's on the parents' onus to, report to the state and get the information we have. So yeah, the long and the short is, yes, we do have some idea of which children are going to homeschool. the long of it is there's not an easy way to extract that because that's not necessarily, it comes through a withdrawal form. It's not an electronic form. So it would, it's not easily collected and pulled as a report, if that makes
I can,
sense.
I can add to that, Lauren, there is a policy and there's a form that they need to fill out and I have to sign off on, and so does the parent. So I know Joyce does collect it. I don't know if it's in a digital format or not. I'll find out about that. But
Yeah,
there
I
is
can-
a policy, a law,
I
in
can-
Connecticut around that.
I can clarify as well. There's a notice of intent to homeschool. So families, when they notify us that they'd like to withdraw their child for homeschooling, they do complete the notice and intent to homeschool. And we maintain that record in my office. And then the withdrawal reason in Power School is noted as homeschool. We also have families who move to the district and call us and notify us that they will not be enrolling their child, and they also fill out the homeschool form. But much of it is on the family to notify us. And then, we support them in completing out the paperwork. But there are some families, I would imagine, that probably don't notify us, especially annually, that are out there that we don't know about. But we do the best we can to work with the families that we're aware of.
I was going to ask too, as a follow-up, suppose a family hasn't moved, their child's never been in school before, the child's now coming to the point where they can enroll in kindergarten, and they simply don't register. They're going to homeschool from K until whenever, so the school doesn't even know that the child's here, or does the school?
No,
No.
if they don't come in and they don't register as homeschooled, fill out the notice of intent, then we would not know about them.
Right. Would the state know about them?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Denise, do you have an idea how many homeschool students we have in our district?
I don't have that data on me tonight, but I can certainly get that for you.
Okay, thank you, Denise.
Yeah, it did drop off significantly after COVID, but there are a lot of military families because of their frequent moves who choose to homeschool. So we'll add that to the FAQ.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Matthew, have your hand up again?
I do this time, thank you.
Okay,
Just for the viewing public that may not know it, the state enrollment trend is about 5 to 6%. So if you look at what we had in FY20 compared to what we have predicted, we are exactly on the same scale as the whole state, give or take 0.25%. So it's not what we're looking at is not a Groton phenomenon, but a Connecticut state phenomenon. Thank you.
And I think even nationally too, Matthew, I don't have the exact statistics, but that would be interesting to see nationwide too, if it's close to that.
any other questions? Okay, Susan.
All right, Lauren, you want to talk us through this slide?
Oh, sorry about that.
That's all right.
So this is our current district enrollment as of October 1st of this year. So our PSIS snapshot. And you can see just if you look across the top, it's the schools that are identified and then the grade levels, how many students at each grade level in each school, with the totals in the far right corner. So, as of October 1st, our numbers for elementary, we have 2,127 students. At the secondary, which is grade 6 through 8. For Groton Middle, we have 884 students as of October 1st. And at the high school, 9 through 12 grades, we had 942 students.
And you're going to be able to see projected enrollment, which looks like it's going to be greater than these numbers for next year.
Are
One
we
of the
losing?
things- I'm
Are
sorry.
we losing a lot of students from? Am I reading this right? Are we losing a lot of students from elementary to middle school?
This is, I guess I'm not really sure what you're asking. So yeah, we do have students that go to interdistrict magnet schools. Typically we see those transitions between 5th to 6th and then 8th to 9th grade.
We also being the sub-base, sub-school, every single military submariner, goes through sub school. And those are usually our younger folks who have, the littler children. And then they will go on a submarine, and that submarine might go out of New London. It might go out of Seattle. Or Bremerton, Washington. It might go out of Norfolk, Virginia. So, they then travel from port to port. So what you typically see in Groton is that we'll have more elementary. Those class sizes are bigger at the elementary level than they tend to be middle and high. And I think in this district, in this southeastern Connecticut corner, we were just talking about this today when we were reviewing it, that our kids have a lot of choice. They have the Learn schools, they have the New London schools. They really have choice here so that they can go to other places outside of Groton. I see Lauren, is your hand up again? Did you want to say something about that?
Oh, no, I apologize. I did the same thing Matthew did.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, because it looks like in elementary school, our total is 2,127. Then we get down to middle school, it's 884. So that's a big drop off.
Yeah, but if you
It-
look at the class sizes, like kindergarten class this year is 272. But this was a smaller year for kindergarten. It typically is almost 400 at sometimes, in the high 300s. But then as they go through 328, 323, 330, they're all around 300. But when they get to middle school, you see numbers that are close to 300, but not quite. And then in high school, they are more in the 200 range, 250, 290, I think. Yeah.
Well, and you
Yes.
also need to consider that at the elementary level, you're looking at 6.5 grades versus 3 grades at the Groton level, right? I mean,
Yeah.
at the middle school level, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So which
true.
accounts for that difference as well.
Right.
But I
And
think all of those phenomena are important.
Any questions on this page or district enrollment? Okay, moving along.
All right. So this is our forecast. This is what we're projecting using our data and our trends. I just want to orient you though, preschool and pre-K, really, we don't have the projections as well for coming on, and preschool, remember, are those specialized programs that have children who are entering after birth to 3 or coming to us with special needs along with their peers. And those are 3 and 4-year-olds. Pre-K and transitional K now are kind of one and the same. They're 4-year-olds who will be getting ready for kindergarten. So those numbers together will, probably be very similar to what we've had in the past. And then when we look at it, we really try to keep our class sizes about what the board's policy or their board's, I guess, ideal is for class size, which is really between 20 and 24 in the elementary levels, really elementary, middle, and high school. Certainly for the littler children, we like to keep it, not more than 20, and as they go through the grades, second, third, 22, and third, fourth, or fourth, fifth, 22 to 24. So you can see, and I don't think there's much differentiation from last year to this year, Lauren, am I correct? For these 3 schools, Charles Barnum, Catherine Kolnowski, and Northeast Academy.
Yes,
I
the
think
only
it's the
one who has a
same
little
number.
bit of a difference would be Northeast. They're projected to be a little bit lower, but that's typically one of the schools where the overflow goes, for lack of a better word. So like once Charles Barnum with the ins and the outs of the military, in particular, Thames River, Mystic River, where classes quickly fill. Most of that overflow does end up at Northeast.
Now, Northeast has 19 FTEs. Is that one down? Because they typically have 2 grade levels of 4. Was it 20 lot this year?
Hold on, I'm going back to check.
And Catherine Kolnowski also. They typically have 2 grade levels of 4, K and 1. And that helps us with the lottery, and also the military moves in and out. So I think we better check that. You want to, we'll keep moving, Lauren, and we'll look at that again. You're muted, Lauren.
I'm sorry. I wanted to check in on that Northeast to see what those changes were that we made, if it had to do with the enrollment, and that was a projected that we would have one less FT, but I don't remember that as part of the conversation.
So I think we have to look at Catherine Kolnowski and Northeast.
Okay, will do.
And that might be, we might need to keep that 4th seat in 1st grade in both schools, especially if we're going to have enrollment, and be able to have a lottery and have some movement.
Right.
So
Which I believe is let me go back and check, but I think that's why that's the 1st grade, because it's that bubble year from the low kindergarten this year with new legislation. Our 1st grade next year will be that lower grade level.
yes, that's right. That's exactly right.
Which is where that FTE change came in.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
But we'll be monitoring that. That while this is a projection now, it's really not going to be fully established till we really, get to the spring. And then Mystic River, I think, is similar to what they already have.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
then Thames River, we're really monitoring, I think, that 3rd grade class or 4th grade class because of the needs that are in that class. So it's not definite yet that we'll only need 3. So we're going to keep our eyes, and ears open to see if there's going to be any shifts in that. And then the total.
And both of those schools are projected to be a little bit higher for total enrollment than this year.
What, both Mystic River and
Mhm.
Thames? Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
And so then just at the bottom is the total enrollment
Oh, yeah.
FTEs.
Down here.
Yep.
Yeah.
In the grade levels.
Any questions? Okay.
And then middle school, I know that we looked at the core classes, and Lauren and I discussed this morning, seeing if we could do something similar for the high school, just even looking at just the cores. But I do know that the core classrooms at Fitch have really increased in size over the past several years. And with Fitch, it's a little different because you can have multi-grades in a lot of the classes. But with some, you can have in math, let's say you can have a freshman taking algebra 2 honors, and you can also have them taking algebra 1. So there's a variety of core classes that they could take. So it's a little harder, where at the middle school, you're going to be in 6th grade math, you're going to be in 7th grade math, you're going to be in 8th grade math or algebra. So it's a little easier to indicate. I actually have seen class sizes even larger. This is an average. So I've seen class sizes of 23, 24 at the middle school. So, but we're going to see if we can get a better handle on Fitch High School too, and bring you back that information.
Okay. Any questions about the secondary enrollment forecast? All right. Okay, you can move on.
Now, this sheet I sent out to you again, because we really went through it with a fine-tooth comb again. And I had gotten feedback. I had sent you an email that I got feedback from the town manager about these, not the software, but the tech hardware is something that is typically in an operational budget. And for Groton, we've been so privileged to have that DoD supplemental money that has really helped support our initiative so well that when we had the, closures during COVID and we had to hand out computers, we were ready to go because we were already at a 1-to-1. So I'll let Clint speak to that. That's, looking at the software is no longer here. So I'll have Clint talk to you a little bit about what our plan is.
All right, I'll be brief, but please stop me and ask questions. So we had initially a bucket of IT related capital improvement requests, in addition to some items that were in the operating budget. Within the IT budget, there are 3 accounts that are specifically designed for replacement and new instructional equipment and non-instructional equipment. Historically, at least the last 3.5 years that I've been in here, we've been reticent to fund some of those. We've trimmed that down and gotten what we've need, but we've been careful with those accounts and adding more to the overall budget. The way I approached the request from the IT department to put together the 25-26 budget is I went to 100% of what our needs are. I thought it was very important to at least start from a full list of what is needed across the board. The IT department tries to be very creative and resourceful, but at some point it's only fair to you all to make decisions and the like if you see what the full package is needed. So what I've done at Susan's direction is taken what was originally as part of CIP as well as in those operating lines, and I've created a prioritized overall list that combines all of those that are tagged with where they originally were, and I've put them in my initial priority order. So the hope is that we can chip away at that through the budget deliberations and create a multi-year plan targeting this year those top priorities, but then having a plan of attack and agreement that we will try to fund the additional needs over the course of the next 2 to 3 years. So ultimately, that's the approach we're taking to try to get this done. Technology is not cheap. We have made a lot of the student Chromebooks and student use devices last as long as possible, and the IT team works diligently to keep those on the road. But there is daily breakage from students, from staff. Most of it is just the hazards of being in an environment with a lot of people and a lot of movement. And we do the best we can to keep those on the road. So that's
We
ultimately
do have an
the approach.
insurance though too for kids, families.
We do indeed have insurance that we ask all parents, all families 6 through 12 to pay. We do provide financial aid for those parents who request it, but it is not an obligation. We are not permitted to make it an obligation, but it is highly recommended. And for those parents who choose not to, should there be considerable damage, we, much like we do with football uniforms or textbooks and so forth, that is something that we do hold them accountable for if there is damage down the road. And we have regular communication with those parents and so forth. So we do have some funding from that self-insured program, if you will, and we try to stretch it for parts and cases and the like, but it doesn't cover all of the needs on a yearly basis. And at some point, these machines are just not worth, once they get to 7, 8 years old, fixing before we need new equipment. So that ultimately is the high level strategy that we're taking at this point. And I'm very much looking forward to sharing the details with the board so that we can get into priorities and have a plan over the years to make sure that we're providing the appropriate tech for all staff and students.
Clint, could you also talk about the business office software? I know that there was talk with the board and, about a new software and aligning it with the town. And I know that you've had quite a bit of experience with Munis, so has Anne Marie, and so has Irene and Ray. So, and you think that, there's less possible human error and it's going to be definitely more synergy between the town and the district. And I think will really help us, communicate.
I'll pinch hit for both Irene and Ray, because a lot of this conversations came over the last year or so. But this amount that you see in this capital improvement request now would align us with the town, and it represents a current version cloud-based solution. So we're thinking about access, we're thinking about security, we're thinking about backups and the like, and getting to the latest version of Munis. I think there needs to be a conversation ultimately on how, with myself and my counterpart on the town side, Irene and her counterpart on the town side, once the larger decision is made as far as how we bring all of this under a single kind of software umbrella and make sure that we have the latest and greatest, and it is in alignment with the town being on the latest and greatest. And those conversations need to take place. But this is a specific request which would get us to that vision of us coming together, working together, which I think will alleviate and address many of the concerns and the requests that the Board of Ed has had around budget software, getting access to numbers, planning for the future, looking at historically, et cetera, et cetera.
And I think the town managers, really, want some more details. So we're going to meet with him. But I think he's very positive about this initiative too.
Any questions about the capital improvement projects?
I think Sam is here to talk about HVAC. We've been told, get ready should the state have that grant. And so we've been working with Mr. Burt as well on this. I know there's a couple numbers that were from a year or two ago that we're going to try to see if it's, how different it is. So originally, Sam, you had gotten the numbers for Fitch High School and Charles Barnum. And then more recently, you got the Catherine Kolnowski and Northeast Academy. So those would be almost a package deal where there might have to be bonding. But should these HVAC grants come through, even at 58%, that would save our town a lot of money. And it would really, really bring our HVAC systems into compliance and be so much better off. But Sam, would you like to add to what I've said?
Sure, but I'll start right at the top of the list, the Fitch High School athletic facilities. If that's
Okay.
we do.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That again is, I think, for at least the past 5 to 7 years, we put this in the CIP and it has not been approved. So this is actually the recrowning of the football field and adding irrigation to that field. With the Field Task Force Committee still underway, I don't know how the town will take a look at this, but I suspect that they're going to wait until the Field Task Committee gets some final answers as to what they're going to do with that field. So that's $367,000 for the upgrade of the actual football field. The football field isn't just used for football, though. It's used for track meets. It's also used for during the day by phys ed classes as well. So it's multi-use field, even though it's the only grass field on that lower portion of the campus. The second item I have here is Northeast Academy HVAC upgrade. And I can combine that with the Catherine Kolnowski HVAC upgrades, even though the two numbers are a little bit different. You may recall that we had a study done by Fuss and O'Neill back in 2010. I think it could have been 12, but some time ago. And because we had some high humidity readings in those buildings. And since then, we have used the process known as active dehumidification, which means that while we're running the AC, we're actually running the heat too to dry out the return air that's coming back into the building, because when these two buildings were built, they did not include dehumidification in those units that are on top of the roof. So Fuss and O'Neill's recommendation then was to replace 2 units per year. And then after 5 years, they'd be done. That was never approved along the way. So we've put the whole package back in here. And I think, as Susan alluded to, all these HVAC items are actually going to go get joined together and probably go out as a bond package. So Northeast Academy, $3,963,000 for that. Kolnowski is $4,191,000.
A little over 8 million.
And
Okay,
how many units all total, Sam?
All of them, right? All 12?
that would
12?
that would do all the units on each building.
So 12 total?
I'll have to double check that. No, I don't want to say 12, but
Okay.
one school has one more than the other, and right off the top of my head, I don't remember which one.
Okay.
Even though Kolnaski is a little bit smaller classroom wise, I think the other one with the extra unit, but I'll look into that and get you that info. The next two items are Fitch High School HVAC and Charles Bonham HVAC upgrades. We had a firm in here 2 years ago, well, 3 years ago, doing upgrades on energy items. They did the LED lighting for us at the high school. They also looked at the HVAC situation at both Fitch High School in the vintage area, which would be beyond the cafeteria, walking from the main office past the cafeteria, down to the right and to the left, the art area, and also the business area of the building. That area of Fitch High School and all of Charles Bonham School have never had any central air conditioning. We do have some rooms that have mini splits, and some have window units, but there is no main system that provides the HVAC or the air conditioning in those spaces. So that's what these two numbers represent. And so Charles Bonham would be 318,000. And what was Fitch High School? I got to find it again.
5 million.
$5,054,000. So that's why this will probably get put into a bond package of some sort. On to the Fitch High School Culinary Arts. That's in for 600,000. You know that we put that one in for the last few years. It hasn't been approved. It's going back in again this year. The Fitch High School Manufacturing Center. You may know that we are working with Electric Boat to develop this. And one place that is of special interest is the garage area of Fitch High School. And so we're looking at, we were told by the architects that it'd be between 75 and 100,000 to do plans, specs, and go out to bid stuff for that. So we have $100,000 requested for that.
Sam, can you explain exactly what a manufacturing center will look like and what it's going to be?
Well, the easiest way to explain it would look like a metalworking shop. There would be lathes, cutting machines, boring machines, all those types of things in there. Susan, do you remember what they called I think they had a name for the program, but
Well, I think that they really are looking at manufacturing as central to some of the businesses that we have help support here and that are looking for, employees. And they've described to me from Electric Boat that this could be then the really the hub of manufacturing here in the schools. Other schools have other interests. Like I think there's other different components at Grasso, and I think Clinton has some. Some of the other schools are really catching on to more of these career type programs, especially for careers that are local careers and really important in the trades. So this area, the garage used to be what was known as the shop and at Fitch. And so we had gone to a school in Rhode Island. Was it Coventry High School in Rhode Island? And they just done this with Electric Boat, and Electric Boat supports the teaching, teachers and, the curriculum and, internships, externships. So they will provide even expertise in the kind of machine equipment we'll need and grants, potential grants and getting that. So by just doing the study and figuring out what we need to do with the space, and to me, it's a lot of just clean up and clean out. When I saw what was happening in Rhode Island, they had a space very similar to what we have. So, and they got it done within a year. So pretty impressive.
Mike has a question.
Thanks. It's about the manufacturing center. One question I think that's going to come up quite a bit is you mentioned Grasso and like why are we trying to duplicate what's in the state technical system? And then my other question is, well, I guess two others. That $100,000, or that's for the cost of, making the space ready. But are there associated new hires that would have to happen with that, either teaching or support staff? And then the third thing is, I think at some point someone said maybe that's where the aluminum falcons might move to.
Yes.
And are those two uses compatible?
Yes. The answer is yes, yes, and yes. But actually, Mike, it is Grasso does not have a manufacturing center. They are really looking to Fitch as being, a prime location at our high school to create something like that in this area. And we really have a manufacturing program already. We have it starts kind of with woodworking and then metals, but we do have manufacturing 1, 2, maybe even 3, and we're using the state curriculum, and we've got several partnerships in that area too that help support us. So I would say there's a lot of synergy for that and a lot of interest in that area. But it does not replicate anything at Grasso. Maybe some of the state schools around the state, I'm not sure what they have actually, but I know Grasso does not have it.
You all set, Mike?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Jen, you have a question? Jen?
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
Let's see. Hello. Question. This goes back to Sam and the Fitch High School athletic facilities. I believe it was last year. I'm not really sure which of our meetings. It was mentioned that the bleachers at the football stadiums were probably not compliant with current standards. So I was wondering why we did not put that back in as a CIP request to upgrade the bleachers. And so that's for Sam. And then I have another one that's not related to Sam Beverly.
Sam, can you answer that one, Sam,
Yeah,
about the bleachers?
I can answer. I don't have an answer for that, other than I was told back then that it was going to go to the field task committee, but
Yeah.
I think Jen is correct. I think we should put it back in there anyways.
Okay.
I believe even if they don't approve it, it's still on the board. So
Sam, maybe we should reach out to John Burt and see what he's thinking about that with both the crowning of the field and the bleachers. Like how soon would that project get going if it were to get going? If he knows.
thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Yeah, I just
So
want to
Sam,
keep us. Yeah, I just want to keep us safe. Yeah, no, thanks, Sam. Just keep us.
so Sam,
Oh,
you'll
go on.
put this back on the CIP list?
Susan and I are going to talk to John Burt first, and we'll talk about those 2 items she just mentioned. And
Okay.
if it's appropriate,
Right.
put it back on.
All right. Thanks. Go ahead, Jen.
Perfect. Second, for the manufacturing center, maybe if when you're talking to whomever you're speaking to at EB, take a tour of the Westerly Center, or ask to see what, so you can get a feel for what maybe EB's sort of thinking. There's building of manufacturing pipelines. So, and there's a lot of training that goes on in Westerly. So just, it's something maybe you'd want to take a tour of.
Yeah, good idea.
Obviously, this would be focused in on our high school students.
So I think Jen, that we have the boat program from EB happening at all of our elementary schools, at our middle school, and also at our high school. And the high school program, actually, they do go to Westerly, and I would love to hook with them on one of those trips.
Yeah,
with the kids.
definitely go
So
see
I
it,
will
'cause-
absolutely find out more about that. And I think the Westerly Center was looked at when this other Rhode Island school designed their manufacturing center. So I think there are some components that are similar to that too. Thank you.
just so that yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. I'm
Thank
all
you.
set, Beverly.
Okay, thank you, Jen. Ian, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to, my understanding of the athletic fields situation with the bleachers was that, the task force plan that they came up with, that is being shopped around now, was basically an all-inclusive, like fix everything all at once. And so I think maybe that was part of the thinking of like sidelining the CIP for the ADA compliance, was to try to get it into the big project instead of piecemealing it.
Right. That sounds right.
Yeah, but I think it's always important to have it, because that is a huge project, and so maybe having it on the radar in a couple different places might be good too. But that was all about that. That's all I got to say for that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I agree with that, Ian. Thank you.
And I think there's one other thing that's probably a high priority and it has the least sticker shock. And that's your Fitch High School water heater. And we had another one go down on us last year, right? That we had to fix or
Yeah,
replace.
So it's not your average water heater. As you can see, it's $85,000 to replace a water heater at Fitch High School. There are two water heaters there that service the biggest user of the hot water is the kitchen, needless to say. So we had one go bad. We replaced that, and of course, as soon as we replaced that, the other one sprung a leak. So we are operating on one water heater, and if we lose that water heater, we don't have hot water in the building. We've got a problem. So that's why we put it in to see if we could get this and get this done this summer.
Well, hopefully the other one lasts till the summer, Sam.
It's new, so I certainly hope it does too. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, moving along.
So we always like to look at per pupil spending. We still just have an estimate, and I think the state's getting closer to releasing numbers that aren't estimates. So
Susan, can you go back to that page? You're going to talk about capital reserve fund.
yeah, I don't know too much about that. That's one of the things that came on the chart. That's something that the town oversees, and they put in those numbers.
Okay.
Sam, do you know much more about capital reserve fund? Is that the fund that they're working with?
I was trying to unmute here. Yeah, all those numbers down there are populated by the town, not by us.
We can
Okay.
ask the question when we talk to John Burt, though.
The town determines where that money's coming from.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, I see Dean's hand raised.
Go ahead, Dean.
Yeah, I think that represents the money that they actually have.
Yeah. To work with.
Yeah. I don't know whether that's the money that they've allocated to education or just the town's figure.
I would say it's the town's figure.
Yeah, that
I
would
don't
be.
think it's for education.
I can't say because I haven't looked at it, but
yeah, we'll ask John when we see him.
Yeah,
when we talk to him about this.
Okay. Any other questions? I don't see any. So go ahead, Susan.
Per pupil spending, basically is what is our budget and how many kids do we have? And so we find out what is the cost per pupil, or the average cost per pupil. And we still have an estimate for 23-24, but I think the state is getting closer, February, March-ish, to get us a real actual number. And we always compare it to the state of Connecticut. And if you look at 22-23, for instance, we were at 17.9 or close to 18,000, but the state was 19.7, really closer to 20. So we're usually you know, less than the state average, or we have been over time. And you can see even the percent variance has increased. So we're getting closer, we're getting further away from the mean or the average of the state. We also look at local districts, and you can see where Connecticut average falls, and you can see those to the right, you know, with lower per pupil spending. You can look at it in two different ways. You can say, you know, boy, those other districts like Old Saybrook are spending much more on their per student, you know, cost than a Ledyard, North Stonington, or Groton. You could also say we're being very efficient on our end.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some efficiencies here. So, you know, you can consider that. Now, this doesn't include all of the extra competitive grants we receive. You know, that's not tied in with this. I think it's really looking at the operational costs or the actual budget that we deliver, that the board agrees on and the town agrees on. I see Jen's hand.
Go ahead, Jen.
Susan, when you, or maybe it's addressed, should be addressed to Lauren. When you calculate the net expenditure per pupil, do you include like the 10% that is not in our network, but we still have to fund? You know how like in like earlier slides, there's like around like 365 to 465 out of district.
Mhm.
Are those students included in the calculation, or is it the subtotal?
Lauren, do you have a definite answer? My guess would be that since we're paying for them, that they would be included. But Lauren,
I
do you
just
have a
want to
better?
know because it does make a difference. You know, it's like
Yeah,
roughly 400 students.
right.
That's a question that Irene will probably be able to answer better, but I can find out for you.
Okay.
Okay, good. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other
And then of course
questions? Oh, go
we,
ahead, Susan.
well, I'm just looking, we always look at the district reference group. These are really districts that are more like ours. If you look at the DERG average, you see it way over to the left in the gray, which is, you know, 19 and a half, 19,439. Bloomfield is quite high. You know, they're over all the way to the left in Middletown as well. And I know Hamden, some of our data looks very similar to Hamden, but we definitely have one of the very lowest in the DERG next to Naugatuck, which is a little lower than we are. And this is based on those 22, 23 when we actually had actual numbers to work with. So hopefully we'll be getting actual numbers soon here too for the 23-24 year. I see Matthew's hand.
Matthew, you have a question?
I do. I just wanted to become. Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I was surprised because I was doing some research and there's an organization called schoolstatefinance.org, and they have different figures for 22-23 showing us expenditure per pupil at 18,900, well, almost $18,000. So I just don't know what's right, but could we verify, because we've got a couple of different sources with different figures. Thank you.
We can look into that, Matthew.
Thank you.
Uh,
I see Adrian.
Yeah, I have a question kind of similar to Matthew. And on the current ed site numbers, do they not have the 2024 numbers? Because I think there it shows 19,000 and change per stand. I apologize, I can't get that website up right now. But and it also shows the state average is higher. I mean, we're still similar, I think, comparing to all these schools. It just seems like the numbers
We've all gone up.
more recent
Yeah.
on that site. Is that accurate?
Well, I don't know
Why,
if that's
if we
accurate.
can see that on a,
So what we found out
I mean,
today
that's the
when we
public thing on Ed site. It just doesn't say what year.
okay. Lauren, you had reached out, I think,
could-
to the State Department, right?
If you could see if there is more, if we have better information right now, it'd be great.
Well, we did investigate that. Lauren, can you speak to that a little?
Yes, the state Department of Ed, they're wrapping the per pupil expenditures up by the end of January, and so that will be available to the public by March 15th is their deadline. They have to have it on there. So what you're looking at
So
is
what is the
last
number?
year's.
But I believe it shows, I'm in a really bad internet connection right now, but I believe it shows that it's 19,000 and change per student then for currently what's on Ed site anyway.
Can you check
Did you
on that,
see
Lauren?
anything on
for
that
us?
site,
I
Lauren?
guess if we can
Different from
just to
this?
get some clarification on the differences.
Yes, I'm looking
see-
right now.
I see Anne Marie's hand is raised. Maybe she has some info.
So I just pulled up Ed site, and what's on Ed site, even though it's the report is the report for 22-23, the figures are 21-22 expenditures
Is that for Groton?
for Groton. Yes.
And what's the amount?
When I'm looking at overall expenditures, let's see here. And we're looking what gives expenditures for a ton of things. What's the you want it for what specifically? The per pupil overall per
pupil.
pupil?
Per pupil would be good.
I see district is 17,662.
Well, that's
Okay,
even
that-
different than the number we have up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And that's
lower.
that's the most recent report.
Oh, really?
That's 22-23 report. Oh, I'm sorry. Whoops. I wrong
What?
G. I got Griswold up. Sorry, my bad.
Oh,
Yeah, that's okay.
yeah, that's why.
There you go. Hold on. Submit. Slip of the G's.
Well, you caught it. That's good, Anne Marie.
There you go. Okay, giving me a second to download here.
Okay.
People expenditure. Oh, it is 18,980.
18,980.
980.
Huh.
And again, that's the it's even though it's the 22-23 report, it's expenditures from 21-22.
So that seems like it was the year before. This one is saying it's the 22-23 per pupil spending is 17,917. But it sounds like what you're reporting on that's 18 goes back to the year before. So we'll do a double check on that. We'll call some of our friends at the state and see, or even in the finance area to see what's the real number.
Okay, that would be appreciated that we can get
Yeah.
a real number. Any questions? Let me see. Okay, no questions?
I can stop
Okay.
sharing and just talk about next steps. So I kind of started the meeting with that we needed to take a deeper dive this week and really look at our numbers. We had several variations, and I really want it to be as efficient as possible. I've heard many voices say that, after going through what we went through last year, while we do need to assess our needs very carefully, we have to make sure that we're putting enough money in the budget. But really looking at the trends and looking at what's really actually happening is really so important. And so, I've seen numbers in different ranges, and I really am working very closely. Lori Lapine is cross-referencing all the personnel, and that's 80% of our budget, which is a huge piece. So we're going to all be meeting for the rest of the week and really fine-tuning and looking for efficiencies. I know that Irene has a Google document that has some of the requests from the principals that you had asked for. So we'll also bring that to your attention. But really, our goal is to get this into digital form and get it out to you, and then to put it into books and get it to you, so that you'll have, the really looking at the function codes. I know that we just got a report on revenue, so I'll be working with John Burt on revenue to get that closely to match what has been coming in, because that part is really what offsets the taxpayer. That's really important. And impact data, as you know, came in higher last year. And the information that I got from Department of Ed Impact Data Office was that we should really have a projected number that closely matches what we've been getting. So I'll be working with John Bird on that, and we'll look at what's come in from the state to do that very accurately. I don't know that I'll have that by the end of the week, but but we will have a budget, a proposal, a projection from me, and that we can work on together and do further in-depth work. And you do have a calendar, and we were hoping to do the public hearing by Monday, but I think we need to put that off a week so that the board can get their arms wrapped around the budget and kind of really feel their way through it. And then we can, bring the public out to hear the message. So those are kind of our next marching orders and our next steps.
Susan, there's a question. Will the budget book be distributed on Friday?
That is my hope. I know I'll have it digitally, but we will do everything in our power, at least for the board. And then we can put
Okay.
it up on the website too, digitally.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that a yes or a no, or we don't know?
Well,
Because
that is the next step. That's the plan.
okay.
So, yeah.
So we'll get a budget by email on Friday. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but I also want to be able to put something hard copy in your
Okay.
packet too.
Is it going to be a complete budget or incomplete budget?
It's going to be as complete as it can be. The revenue piece, I don't know that I'll have. Some of the grants pages, I don't know that I'll have, that we'll add to, but the actual operating budget itself, you will get with benefits and healthcare and all of that.
Are you prepared to do a public hearing on Monday, even
No,
though the board's just getting their budget?
I would rather do it. I'd rather put it out a week so that I can orient the board to the budget first and the budget book, so that you feel more prepared, even so you go into a public hearing kind of understanding it better, and then so you can listen to what the community is asking us or telling us.
Jen, you have a question?
Yes, actually, that was Susan sort of addressed it. I was trying to figure out like when and if we were going to move our public hearing. It looks like it's going to be the 20th then, or at least we're thinking the 20th. And then if not the 20th, I would assume the 3rd, because we have like our regular meeting on the 27th. So that's one. That's where I was curious. And second, the budget binder, is it going to be based on what the budget committee recommended? Meaning it's by school. And also, I know you mentioned it's going to be by the cost account, which is fine. So I just wanted to see how comprehensive this budget binder is going to look.
So I have seen the budget proposals, and I do see it broken out by school.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I think Irene had really listened very carefully to what the ad hoc committee had said. And so when she was framing it out, she really wanted to give you more insight. And I think I had made the example that, my budget used to be in with HR, and there were other things too that were mixed up, and, or miscellaneous. And so we've really tried to fine tune that and get it to the areas where it belongs. So it's very clear.
Great, thank you. Looking forward to seeing the binder.
Thank you.
All right, so so we're saying that the public hearing will be on January 20th. Is that going to be a firm date or not?
I'm just looking at the calendar to see what we've got here.
Is that a MLK Day?
That's what I'm wondering.
I think it probably is. I was checking
I
that.
think it is. I think you're right. So it
Yeah, I
might
don't
have to
have
be
a
that
time.
Tuesday then. Martin
Okay.
Luther King, Monday, the 20th.
All right. So the
But
public
we
hearing
do
will
have
be,
a special meeting on the 21st, so we could do it then.
okay. Now that
Yeah.
has to be firm. We can't be switching around all the time.
No, we won't. We
Okay.
won't post it and take it down.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does that mean next week you're on schedule with, I forget, I don't have the schedule in front of me. Is that,
Yeah. We're going to start
elementary
marching through it. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, absolutely.
on Monday. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions?
I
Let
see
me see.
2 hands up.
Ian?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to get a little bit of clarity there. So, the 13th, are we still meeting on the 13th? Is
Yes.
that going to be their orientation meeting? That's basically going to become what tonight should have been?
Well, tonight was always going to be your big overview like this, but I was hoping to have a couple slides in there just to show you the budget. But tonight was always going to be what it was, but with a little more detail. But we'll definitely be able to do the deep dive on 13th, looking at the budget, looking at the overview, the big picture, and then going into it more deeply.
And that's a firm commitment for a digital version with a best case scenario of a binder as well.
Yep.
And we're firm on the date for the 21st as far as the public hearing.
That
Yep,
looks
she
good
already
to
said
me.
yes.
I just said yes. Yep.
She just said
Okay.
yes, Ian.
Yep.
All right, I'm
Okay.
just running down my list of notes. That's all.
Yeah.
Just
All right.
confirming.
Okay.
Thank you.
You better scratch that one off then. Mike, you got a question? Mike?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can
now
hear
we
you.
Sorry about that. So I'm looking at our budget timeline. I guess it's from December 20th, that PDF we got. Next week for the 13th, it said we were going to go through elementary. Is that still what we're going to do? And if not, when will that be?
Nope, that's
That's-
still what Susan plans to do.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Right.
And I think you'll be able to see it broken out, not just holistically, but by school.
Okay. And so we do need a few days before we need to get those relevant numbers before we meet, like not on Monday or Sunday.
No,
or
we're not going to
anything
give
like
it to you
that.
on Monday. No.
But yeah, but certainly by the end of the week, because
Yeah.
I can't digest things that quickly, and they're
Mhm.
important decisions for sure.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Any other questions or comments? All right, so next Monday, Susan will, by the end of the week, Susan will have the budget all ready for us. Monday, the schedule will continue the way it is, but the public hearing will go to the following Tuesday, January 21st.
Got it.
Okay. And you'll get answers to any of the questions that we asked tonight. You'll get us some answers to those.
That's right.
Okay.
Like I
Any
said,
oth-
I've got Erica putting that Google Doc together and, and listening to these, different meetings to make sure she's captured them all. And once she sends it out, if there's anything you see missing that you had asked and it didn't appear, let us know.
Okay. Any other comments or anything that you want to say? No?
Me, just for me.
Okay. Go ahead, Andrea.
Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Do you have a second? Second for adjournment? I'll second it. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Wow.
opposed? Opposed? Abstentions? We are adjourned.